equity initiatives were once all the rage in the corporate world, but several big companies are now walking back on those promises.
The point of fighting racism, sexism, and whatnot was not to replace it with another form of racism and sexism, but it was rather to get rid of racism and get rid of sexism. Not change it to another form. And DEI is fundamentally racist and sexist.
I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always identified as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe that
I think somebody should look into that too when you ask continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
Bakari, I'm half Colombian, but for the purposes of this panel, I guess I will be black. How do you think Vice President Harris handled her response to Trump?
No, I think that this is an amazing moment in American TV history, because we can all tell the audience at that time we turned black. For me, it was about 99, 2000 when I first heard Juvenile's Back That Ass Up and I had a rhythmic cadence to my dance. At that moment, I knew I was black. But
I don't like companies getting into politics. I don't like the whole woke movement. I've said this to CEOs. You don't have to weigh in on social issues. You don't have to make a department on DEI. In fact, just hire the best candidate.
This is no different than Hollywood trying to have all of these standards of diversity. And then what happens? The movies are not great and they're not making any money. Disney puts out flop after flop after flop because they have to fill some kind of a quota or have things look like a storybook instead of just the best person for the job should get that job. So this is the snake eating its own tail. It should be about merit. And that is whatever color you are, whatever way you identify, you should get the job based on your performance and your ability, because that's what helps everybody around you.
You don't understand. Just because you hire somebody that doesn't look like you, that does not mean you're less qualified. It just means we just expanded our reach of applicants, and it just so happened that was the most qualified person. So like, well, you're hiring people who are less qualified, and that's why you do this, because you want the virtue signal. That was the big one. You want a virtue signal. I'm like, no, I want to make more money, right? And it's just like, to me, this is what a good business does. You don't need more people like you. You need people who complement your skill sets.
Welcome. What's going on, everyone? Thanks for joining me on this live. My name is Walter Gaynor II, and I'm the host of the Working While Black Show, your go-to resource for career growth and entrepreneurship. Now, I usually do these pre-recorded behind the scenes. I put them out afterwards, but one of my goals for this year is to do more live shows. Is actually bringing me back to what I used to do when I was in the LinkedIn Creator Accelerator program. So I am excited to be joining you. This right here, these live streams, I really love it because I get a chance to connect real time with y'all. So as you're watching, comment. We're broadcasting on YouTube and LinkedIn. Let me know what your thoughts. Join in on the conversation. I got some things I want to share, but I also want to hear about y'all's stories as well. So today we're talking about the barriers that Black professionals and entrepreneurs face. That is the attack on DEI. That is limited access to funding. And we're going to talk about AI and disruption. Is it taking our jobs or not? Yes and no is the answers, but we'll break it down a little bit more. But let's go ahead and kick things off with a little story, right? So there's this Burger King cook. Goes by the name of Kevin Ford, because that is his name. He recently made headlines because he basically never called out of work for 27 years. And on his 27th year anniversary, his manager came through to congratulate him. It's actually a very beautiful story. They made a whole TikTok video about it. It was very organic, heartwarming story. But his gift was like basically a bunch of gift cards. I think some candy and everything. He appreciated it. He loved it. He's a lovely man, ideal employee, hardworking, all that stuff. But for 27 years, getting a gift card as a reward, that's a lot. It's not a lot. It's a little for me. It's like, man, where's all the congratulations? Where's the, you might have leadership potential. So it was a heartwarming story, but it's like, is that all? But no, it wasn't all, because someone put up a GoFundMe for him after the video started to go viral, and he ended up getting over $400,000 on that GoFundMe, which is incredible. But it didn't come from the company. It didn't come from Burger King. It came from the community, the people. Shout out to us. We out here supporting us in all sorts of ways. Now, my issue is just really, it just illustrates this whole American dream, right? The work hard, get a good job. You will be rewarded in the end, if as long as you just keep on showing up and showing up and showing up. But after 27 years of being a Burger King cook, you would think that he'd be able to, show up in different places. Maybe he's no longer in Burger King, anything. And that's kind of like the beginning, kind of the intro to this topic of the attack on DEI. You see, there's, as you heard at the beginning, everyone has a different take on it, a different perspective. When you hear DEI, a lot of people are like, oh, it's just hiring black people to make a quota. It's making sure women are in leadership to make a quota. But in reality, this isn't about meeting quotas per se. It's just another part of building businesses. And I really love what we heard from Dallas Mavericks over Mark Cuban, also Shark Tank host or co-host, panelist, judge, whatever it is, and really just looking at it as, no, this is a function of doing business. DEI isn't a way to do reverse discrimination or take power away from people. It's really there to empower people and just ultimately have a stronger business model. Now, when I wanted to tell that story about the Burger King cook because when I think of DEI, I think of that being an opportunity if there was some policy set in place to take a look at, people who are lower down. This would be an incredible opportunity for him to get higher up. Oh, we're getting some real-time updates. What's up, James? How's it going? Appreciate you tuning in. I heard that something's backwards. See, that's a cool thing about live stream. It's all real time. Appreciate the heads up. All right, there we go. Appreciate it. Yeah, so DEI, supporting people. I think a function of business, especially in retail, we see CEOs getting these like $1 million bonuses for the work they're doing. And yeah, there's a lot of skill that goes into leading a global enterprise, but you never really hear that much about the stories of people starting from things like a cook and actually going up into corporate environments. Someone who's working at Burger King for 27 years knows a lot about how the business really functions. Like, I'm curious for everyone who's watching real time or in the live or catching the replay. Let me know, team replay, if you're catching the replay live, if you're here right now. But I'm curious, how many times have you been working in an environment and you get certain instructions or a new approach to doing business? It's coming from leadership. You're just thinking like, oh, that's kind of a waste of our time. That doesn't actually help what we're doing. It might even take away from the efficiency that we have and making things a little slower, less processes. When you don't have input from people who are working down on the ground in these entry level jobs or just face to face with the customers actually doing the work that's bringing in all the revenue, then you don't get that true insight on how the business works. And someone who's working there for 27 years should get more than a gift basket. They should get a paid trip up to corporate to discuss different opportunities for career advancement. Quick shout outs. What's going on, Steve? Thank you for joining in. Chris Ward Jr., what's up? James Hicks, appreciate you all tuning in. Y'all, we're talking about the barriers that Black professionals face, the attack on DEI, the lack of funding that businesses have, and of course, AI, something that I talk about all the time at work. And also just because I'm a nerd, I talk about it in group chats as well. Is it taking our jobs? We're going to find out. So yeah, back to the attack on DEI. At the beginning, if you're catching this live, you might have missed it. We played some clips from different news anchors, public figures. Had to play a clip from Elon Musk, the biggest supporter of the anti-DEI movement, because I think it's important to have multiple perspectives, right? We're in this place right now where a lot of people feel that DEI doesn't work, but I think they kind of forget about what change really looks like. When it comes to bringing something new to our organization, it's not about a flip of a switch. Everything works. Everything's happy. Blah 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 blah. It takes a lot of process and onboarding and communication to make sure that everyone can become onboarded onto this new plan. And DEI is no different. Matter of fact, I would say DEI is probably like the biggest. This is like the biggest case study on like change management ever. Whoever could do it successfully really needs to like get a trophy. I don't really believe in like participation trophies, but when you're doing something at this level, this type of change, it requires a lot of skill, communication, dedication, and commitment. I mean, we're like, what is it, 2024 right now, 4 years since George Floyd was murdered, and everyone's like, okay, yeah, let's take DEI seriously. That's a lot of companies. They're just new to this. A lot of people have been doing DEI for a long time, but a lot of companies are new to this. And to look at it after 4 years, after all of the resistance that's come into play, I don't think that's enough time to really judge whether or not something has worked. I'm really curious if anyone's watching live or the replay. Let me know if you've been in a work environment where people have started to implement DEI, because I am not an expert or professional to the person that would get hired to come in to implement these changes. So if you've experienced this, if you experienced like your company going through this shift, I would love to hear your stories. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. I think it's kind of surprising when I hear both even people from our community saying the DEI has failed when we're talking about not just a change like, oh, we're switching from Microsoft to Amazon, Google Workspace to Microsoft Office. This is a change where we're talking about like, oh, yeah, let's start treating people differently. You, sir, there's a long history to why you have certain privilege, and there's a lot of resistance to that. It takes time to really change a lot of people's mindsets. This is something that's going to be at least another 10 years going on. But I don't want to just talk. I want to talk a little bit of stats, y'all, a little bit of stats, because especially this year, there's been a huge, I would say, support for companies that are starting to deprioritize DEI. Microsoft CEI committed to doubling the number of Black employees that work at the global tech giant. And this year, they basically let go of their DEI department. What's interesting is they made that commitment to doubling the number of Black employees. And I have some numbers for where they're at. A company that has about over 200,000 people worldwide. They have women who are employed are about 31.2% of all employees globally. And they've had a 3.6 increase since 2019. Black employees represent 6.7 of its global workforce. That's up from 2.2% from 2019. Latino Hispanic employees make up 8% of the company's workforce. Y'all, when you see things about companies wanting to double the number of Black employees, I think that creates a lot of fear for people who aren't, employees of color, who aren't women, basically white males. And it's kind of interesting, right? Because when you think of doubling, it's like, oh no, it's going to be a whole takeover. But when we see the stat that Black employees represent 6.7% of its global workforce, doubling that would just make it like a little over 12%. Like, it's like, well, in reality, when it comes to DEI, we're asking for the bare minimum, but people ask like we're ready to take their whole business away from them and just change everything. Quick shout out to people catching this live. What's up, Stephanie Cole? I love when people, talk to each other too. It's really cool because I do this not for me to talk, just hear myself talk. I do this really just to share what I'm learning, what I'm observing, any resources that come across, and really just to build with y'all. So it's really cool to see when I see people interacting with each other too. Steve Worthy, Mr. Leadership, Retail Leadership. He said 100% boots on the floor knowledge is invaluable for all organizations. This is a call back to when I was talking about companies not doing enough to invest in their frontline workers, people in retail who are literally face to face with the customers. The reason that they're generating revenue for the company. I was talking about a story from Burger King cook Kevin Ford, who never called out for 27 years. On his 27th year, his manager gave him a gift basket. It was beautiful, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. But thankfully to the people, we got him over $300,000 through GoFundMe. So back to like the actual barrier for Black professionals, we hear about microaggressions, different types of discrimination, and really what happens to Black employees happens to all sorts of people. But this is the Working Well Black show, so I'm going to talk about the Black experience. And I'm not going to go too deep into what discrimination is and microaggressions are. I'm going to save that for a series I'm going to do. But essentially, there are moments that can sometimes be hard to prove that end up creating a unsupportive environment for different people. I know that just me myself, I just remember my first job out of college, just starting to realize that while my boss was like he chose to hire me, but I could tell that he was just uncomfortable around Black people even saying anything that had to do with identity and stuff. And there's different moments where we just ultimately all the employees started to realize, like, yeah, I don't know if he's racist, but I know he has a preference. He has a preference. When I started to find out that me, someone who started to implement different things to help generate more revenue for this company, um, starting to train other people, was getting paid less than others. And when I went to ask about how to start generating more money or get a raise and everything, it was just like, yeah, no, you're young. You just like you don't need that, basically. And I was under the impression at first I was going to accept like the whole not right now, because I was under the impression that the company wasn't doing all that well. And I like kind of mentioned that. He's like, no, we're doing great. I was like, oh, okay. I see what time it is. I see what time it is. Curious if you're watching right now, if you've ever had any experience in the workplace, any type of microaggressions or something, please let me know. Another one, of course, is hair discrimination, something I thought was going to get passed with the Crown Act. A bill that started to get passed in California, a city in California, and then statewide in New York. And slowly by slowly, different states were starting to adopt it. And that was to prevent hair discrimination in professional organizations and in schools. It really had a huge impact on a lot of women, Black women who were in the workplace, who were getting criticized because of their hair, getting looked at as not professional, et cetera, et cetera. But it's also affected a lot of Black men. In fact, I had a guest on my podcast who, at the time I was interviewing him, he was in the middle of a case for hair discrimination. So he couldn't speak on it too much, but kind of gave me the story about how it all started. Being Black at work, there's a lot of things that come with that, whether it is direct discrimination or for something like the lack of mentorship or support that you get. A lot of career advancement doesn't always really just come from hard work. It comes from the relationships you build and networking opportunities and people who are taking others under the wing. And when you're in a workplace where you're the only Black person there, it kind of reduces the chances of you getting that same support. So what is the solution? Because we don't want to just talk about problems. And really with this live, this is kind of like a both awareness, but also a chance to really focus in, like, this attack on DEI, we need more additional narratives that kind of show a different perspective and the things that support it. Because um, you see like companies like the HR organization changing what DEI means to kind of appease certain people who hate it. You see people just getting rid of it altogether under this guise of, we're here listening to our customers, but really it's people starting to deprioritize it in favor of other things. And the diversity point, it's kind of funny because in a lot of these companies there are like more than just one or few Black people, but they're always at the bottom of the organizational chart. You don't always see as much advancement opportunities there. So that's where kind of like the inclusion parts come in, starting to create inclusive environments where people feel safe. The equity part, which I personally think is the most important, which is really like having like the higher stakes in the company. There's a lot to this. And there's not a lot of support there. So really just advocating more and having those conversations within the organization to um, start to share that it's not really about the whole reverse racism or calling, white people evil and all of that. It's really all about understanding the different cultures, creating a safe space where people can understand each other, and of course, making sure that we don't always see the same people in leadership. Thank you all for joining. Once again, this is live. Everyone catching the replay, but I definitely want to hear your thoughts as you're watching. Shout out to the Black Podcast Association. Appreciate you. We have a cool series coming soon. Excited to share it with you all. Now I want to pivot a little bit to the funding part, right? So this is all about career growth and entrepreneurship, and this still falls under the attack on DEI, but now it's starting to roll over not just to in the workplace, but also just affecting a lot of black businesses. A lot of black businesses who started to get actual financial support from lending organizations, venture capitalists, et cetera, after there was this whole, one was call it like an awakening of that, like, oh, black lives are in cases endangered and not always supported. So in 2020, we see a lot of support, but things started to change as years go on. And what I think is interesting is that I think we have an interesting perspective on funding, right? We look at businesses who aren't making money as failures, but at the same time, like Uber is still working on becoming profitable. Isn't that so interesting? Access to funding is like really one of the most important parts of starting and scaling a business. And for a lot of Black businesses who have not had equal access to funding, we've had to really kind of just get it out the mud, really rely strictly on sales, donations, all these things. But really being able to get those business loans, get that investment, is the access has not been equal. Um, all the racial profiling discrimination that exists in the workplace is the same, maybe even 10 times when it's time to ask for funding. We have this whole kind of American mindset of pulling, like, just becoming that self-made billionaire, pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. But grants and loans, they play just as big of a part as sales do. Someone starting from nothing and building an empire, but that's a great story. That's amazing. But majority of the businesses with global reach have had opportunities to have some type of financial assistance, and it's not a bad thing. We see more companies starting to make those commitments and continue to make those commitments. Like Comcast has this Rise program they're doing in Atlanta that's providing funding to Black businesses, and people like Pinky Cole from Slutty Vegan have shared how they've benefited, how her husband has benefited when growing their business. So it is happening, but not at the same level. We're right now, a lot of people are hurting. Um, and one group that we don't really hear as much about are the businesses that were able to take advantage of the pandemic booms and programs dedicated to Black owned businesses. But now there are reports that are saying that 1 in 3 Black startups were able to secure funding. 1 in 3. That's really just one report. There's it's the access is changing. Companies are starting to pull back, and I want to share this one article that I was looking at, right? Because this story happened, and it almost hurt to hear, right? It almost hurt to hear as we're talking about things like discriminatory practices that date back to hundreds of years ago, from like redlining to just things like the whole reason that a lot of people don't trust banks and kind of keep money in the mattress type of things, because certain banks that were established to provide be a financial institution to like recently freed slaves were ended up having a lot of corrupt practices where things like loans weren't actually being given to Black entrepreneurs, and instead there were a lot of white entrepreneurs who are getting access to those loans instead. It's crazy. Like, a financial institution started and owned by a lot of white people existed for Black people, actually, they didn't benefit from it. And then those same banks ended up closing. People lost all of their money. So you hear stories like this. A lot of people know that there's an additional challenge when it comes to getting investments from VCs, venture capitalists. We kind of took it to ourselves. There are a venture capitalist firm called the Fearless Fund. um, it existed to provide financial support and assistance to Black women in businesses, which is a really beautiful thing. I was at InvestFest last year, and I spoke to a VC who shared that he is directly looking to support Black women because they are kind of reportedly the fastest growing entrepreneurs. And for a venture capitalist, that means a lot. It's good for business. So let me pull this story up because it truly is kind of disgusting what happened. So, all right, here we go. An appeals court rules that VC Fearless Fund cannot issue grants to Black women. This venture capitalist firm that was created to support Black women, provide financial assistance to Black women who are creating businesses that are may not be able to have that same level of access to other financial institutions or funding options. This was created specifically for Black women, and what happened was someone started to feel some type of way about it, right? So the story shares that VC firm Fearless Fund has faced a setback in its plan to issue grants to Black women business owners. On Monday, an appeals court ruled against Fearless, upholding preliminary injunction in place on the program. The court ruling said that the Fearless Fund's drivers grants likely violates the Civil Rights Act of 1866. Ain't that something? A fund that was set up to provide grants to Black women business owners was ruled that it's violating a Civil Rights Act, which bans the use of race in contracts. Now, a lot of these acts were put in place to prevent discrimination, but we live in a world where you can sue for anything. And last year, this Fearless Fund was sued by the American Alliance for Equal Rights, which argued that the grant discriminated against non-Black women founders since only Black women could apply. Now, who would get mad of that? It's always important to know who is setting up these organizations, right? And this is something I would love to see more of. As of right now, the only, I guess, organization that someone could just call out by name, top of mind, is the NAACP organization. I never heard of this organization until this lawsuit came out. And one thing I love to do is to always, 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 always take a look at what a company is. So the American Alliance for Equal Rights. Let's take a look at who they are, what they do. Let's go back to this. Protecting equal rights for all Americans. All Americans. I don't think they took a look at Black women who are Americans. A nonprofit membership organization dedicated to challenging distinctions made on the basis of race and ethnicity in federal and state courts. We believe that ancient faith that gave birth to our nation's civil rights laws is the principle that an individual's race should not be used to help them or harm them in their life's endeavors. This sounds amazing, right? This sounds amazing. So why would they end up suing the Fearless Fund? Because it limits applicants to you can only apply if you're a Black woman. They didn't like this. They took up someone so interesting. But you take a look at their cases that they publicize here, and you start to see a pattern, right? American Alliance files lawsuit challenging Minnesota Board of Social Work racial quotas. Smithsonian Institute's National Museum of the National Museum of the American Latino. A lawsuit challenging venture capital firms' race-exclusive policies. Let's take a look at this one since we're talking about venture capital firms. All right. Oh, this is the lawsuit, August 2nd, 2023. You know, we get a lot of information from clips on social media, but sometimes it's important to really dig in to see what's happening right now. I wasn't going to go all the way in, but I just, you know, we're going for it. We're going for it. All right. So let's see that under the terms of the grant program, official eligibility for the contest depends on the applicant's race, with only Black females being eligible to participate in this process. Fearless Fund's racial exclusion in making contracts clearly violates Section 1981, the American Alliance for Equal Rights, has members who are being excluded from participating in the program because they are the wrong race. Now, a lot of people we're kind of starting from scratch here. We're just starting our business, starting to walk away from the workplace. And the reason that I kind of create the Work While Black show to focus on both career growth and entrepreneurship is to support people who are looking to grow in their career, looking to grow their business, or kind of in that middle place, looking to make that pivot or become a hybrid employee, work while owning your own business, and with the hopes of eventually growing that business and doing it full time. A lot of Black people, Black professionals are in this position right now where prices of everything are going up, and it's hard. Prices going up, but wages are not. It's challenging, and now a lot of people have two jobs, or they are setting something up so that they can still work their job while running a business, because we are all multi hyphenated people to an extent. We all have additional time that we could be putting into a business. Now, this isn't like a, if you're not putting your time into a business, you're failing. It's not that. It's not that. It's not that. I'm just saying, for people who choose to do that, they're choosing to because they have additional time to commit to a business that doesn't take away from their job. Um, and funds like these help to do that. People who are looking to start a business that maybe they just do on the weekends, or they want to have the business and have other people work there. That takes a lot of money. It takes funding. All right, so let's take a look at this complaint. Edward Blum. All right, you know what? This is interesting. We're going to go back over to this article because I like this, because it seems kind of gloomy. It seems like when you hear about all these organizations, Hobby Lobby and everything, starting to deprioritize DEI or take it away, it seems kind of gloomy. But the title of this article was, but an appeals court rules that the VC Fearless Fund cannot issue grants to Black women, but the fight continues. So I want to hear about this, all right, because this is all about talking about the problem, but also discussing the solutions that exist. All right. Even though one, lawsuit was, passed, it doesn't mean it's over. Right. All right. So let's go down to here. While today's ruling means that the Fearless Fund can't issue grants, it's not necessarily the final word on the case. They're evaluating options regarding what to do next, including the possibility of going to trial. Going to trial. Okay, yeah, so they continue to take more legal steps to this. Oh, and here's her statement. The CEO of the Fearless Fund released a statement saying the foundation was determined to continue fighting the lawsuit. America is supposed to be a nation where one has the freedom to achieve, the freedom to earn, and the freedom to prosper. Yet when we have attempted to level the playing field for underrepresented groups, our freedoms were stifled. I feel that. Simone continued, we must keep up this fight for the next generation of girls who deserve to grow up in an America that lets them realize their dreams instead of outlawing them. Man. What do y'all feel about this? We're all looking at this real time. Okay, Steve is saying here, take a look at their leadership team and board of directors. Let's do that, because, they say this is the organization that's doing this, but who are actually calling the shots? Good call. All right, let's see. Let's go to about. Remember. Oh, okay. All we know so far is Edward J. Blum, president, but let's see what else we could find. A lot of people love to hide behind something else. All right, the American Alliance for Equal Rights. Team. So I'm looking at leadership team for the American Alliance for Equal Rights. Let's see what we find. Maybe it's JD Vance. Let's see. Edward J. Blum. Let's take a look at Wikipedia, maybe Bloomberg Law News. Let's see. I'm also going to take a look at the board of directors. Since it is a nonprofit, they need to publicize this info. American Foundation. Oh, that's Foundation. All right, let's see. Interesting. This was launched in spring of 2009 as the sole sponsor of Perry versus Schwarzenegger. Founded by political consultant. Is this the right thing? American Alliance for Equal Rights. This is a foundation for equal rights. Oh, maybe I didn't. No, I put this in curricular. This might have to be my own homework where I kind of look into this and gonna let you know what I find out. I'm gonna give it 30 more seconds. Okay, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna follow up. Appreciate that call out, Steve. I'm gonna find out who's behind it, and we're gonna talk about it because I think it's important. A lot of people are committed to the work that they're doing, and it's good to know who's committed to making sure that Black women can't get money to start their businesses. What's interesting about this case as well is that it went to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, which is the same circuit court that ended up ruling that companies do or legally can dismiss an applicant due to someone's hairstyle. They rule that hairstyles do not have anything to do with race. But really, the main issue here right now is that there are a lot of people who are starting their businesses, but they're not getting the same access to capital. Less than 1/3 of Black owners were approved for a loan in 2023. And people are really just looking for funding to support their businesses. But the fight is not over. There are still a lot of venture capitalist firms that are ran and owned by Black people. And I think the thing that one lawsuit started from people not being able to apply unless they were Black. So there's always loopholes. There's always loopholes to everything. I'm going to actually reach out to a few venture capitalists who are Black to have them on the show just to talk about what it is they do, what that world is like, and just talk about this funding issues that Black startup owners have. Now let's take a pivot. Let's take a pivot to the risk of disruption. Is AI taking our jobs? What's interesting? I was in Florida for a podcast conference, and on the way, I was tired. We stopped at a Wendy's to order takeout, or to go through the drive-through. And when I pulled up, I was expecting to, place my order through the telecom thing, yell a little bit, and then have my partner say, "Oh no, you don't have to yell. They hear you." I'm like, "Okay, my bad, didn't realize it." But instead, it was just a screen, and it was a screen, and instead of a person, it was just like the AI said, "Talk to me, let me know what you think, and place your order." And I did, and actually was very, very impressed. Even like me saying, a drink with no ice. That's what I always do, drink with no ice, because I feel like they cheap you on the liquids that are in the cup. Like I want all of the soda, water, lemonade, whatever I'm ordering. So that was my first time even realizing that Wendy's and all these fast food companies were doing this, but essentially they're replacing the people who are taking your order with AI. And at Wendy's, it did work for me in my experience. So I went to their website, and in December 11th, they announced that they're leading drive-through innovation with Wendy's Fresh AI. is how they're enhancing customer and crew experiences with industry-leading generative AI technology, y'all. We're always talking about ChatGPT this, ChatGPT that. Oh my God, oh my goodness. But there's levels to this artificial intelligence. They announced a partnership with Google Cloud, tapping into world-class technology and resources to develop an industry-leading generative AI platform. At the heart of our innovation is enhancing the crew and customer experience the Wendy's way, focusing on quality and meeting our customers where and how they want to order their Wendy's favorites. Now, this right here is telling me that they are, not having humans taking the orders, but using technology to do so, which actually goes along the lines of a few other headlines that I've seen about how AI has been able to replace customer service jobs. And I made a post about it on LinkedIn, and there was kind of mixed emotions. Some people were like, "Yeah, it's going crazy." Other people like, "Hey, it sounds bad, but we're not really taking our jobs." Now, there's another case actually that made me realize that AI in some cases is super impressive, but in others it's not. I don't know if anyone here has heard of the podcast called Drink Champs, the very popular show. It's not the biggest in the world, but it's a very, very popular one. It's hosted by Nori and DJ Effin. But I was using AI to create, I used it in different circumstances, and one is just kind of experimenting. I wanted a list of podcasts that were started by rappers, people in hip hop, and it called out this show. It called out this show, Drink Champs. It's clearly hosted by Nori and DJ F. And like these are the people that are hosted by. But they told me that it was hosted by Fat Joe. That Fat Joe started it. And what's interesting is Fat Joe has a podcast. I don't know if he is still doing, but he has a completely different show called the Fat Joe Show. But instead, it really told me that Fat Joe, Bronx-born rapper, has a podcast called Drink Champs. It's an interview show, features Fat Joe and co-host Drink Champs interviewing hip-hop legends and rising stars that experience in the music industry. So on one end, we have AI successfully taking orders. On the other end, we have it telling me the wrong information. We've seen cases where Google's AI Gemini basically was they had to basically just roll it back, the generative image one, because it was showing George Washington or depicting George Washington as a black person without it being prompted to do so. It's one thing when you put in a prompt to ask for a specific image and make it a black person, but no, someone's looking for George Washington or whoever they were looking for, and they just presented an image of a black person. It looked cool, it's impressive, but it was just historically inaccurate, and that's kind of dangerous information, especially when we're living in a world where people feel that there's no such thing as white privilege and black people have the same opportunities as everyone else. This doesn't really, it does more harm than good. But yeah, back to the disruption though, right? Because we're seeing in cases that things like Wendy's are putting in the generative AI, but also McDonald's did the same thing, but they decided to roll it back. It wasn't ready. So it feels kind of weird. I'm not really sure where we are with AI, but one thing I do know is that it's coming. It really is coming. I went to, once again, InvestFest recently, and I spoke to some people and mentioned that one thing that we need to look out for is the advancement of AI. I'm going to play this clip. It's a clip from an upcoming series that I'm releasing. So y'all kind of getting a premiere that literally only 2 other people have seen. Well, one person literally has seen, and it's probably me just viewing it. It's a video. I'm actually going to take this one down and re-upload it with a few other tweaks, but wanted to share it with you real time right here. There's one question I asked him. You're an investor.
Yes.
All right. What's one lesson you learned today, like in the world of investing? What's something you took away to this weekend?
The projections for AI. Like AI is going to make a major boom in the next couple of years. So making sure that you are invested in any companies that are involved in AI, like NVIDIA, Microsoft, like any of those companies that are heavily doing development in AI, because in the next few years, everything's going to be AI. Everything's going to be automated, and artificial intelligence is going to be everywhere. So that's one thing I would say to people. If you're going into investing, try to find some companies that are doing a lot of development in AI.
Okay. I like that. You thought you heard about AI a lot. Now, in a few years, you're saying it's about to boom even more.
Yeah.
Yo, AI is here. The advancement is coming. Just because we've seen certain places where AI has failed doesn't mean it's over. So, what is the solution, right? There's a number of Black professionals who are in positions that could be replaced by AI. Doesn't mean it will be, but the job tasks that we're responsible for are things that AI could replace. Now, me personally, I'm not a fan of using AI chatbots when I'm trying to figure out like what's going on with my bill. Um, why did Xfinity all of a sudden just add on, another $50? Oh wait, I forgot. Once again, I got a call again. I'm not a fan of using AI for that. I want to speak to people. Not a fan of using AI when I need specific answers. It just hasn't been there for me yet. It's not a good solution. But I can see a point where AI is able to understand what I'm asking and provide a certain answer or kind of expedite the issue. Because no one wants to wait on the phone to talk to somebody. We just want the problem solved. But for people who are in roles that can be disrupted, it's important to start really thinking of it, whether or not it's going to. I think it's important for us to take a look at where we are and where we could be. Shout to Steve Worthy. He shared that it's coming, but it's still far off. The adoption is low, namely in some retail customer facing operations. Steve, I would love to do an episode with you. I know we got something scheduled, but just to really focus in on this retail customer facing operations and AI, how they're influencing each other, what's going on in this space. There's a lot of things changing. There's things that I've seen that I was very impressed on that I didn't think would happen so soon. And there's other things that I'm like, still a far way out. One thing that I know is gonna keep the adoption slow is the cost of implementing these tools. But if the cost becomes, cheaper than employing, hundreds of thousands of people, the decisions will be made. So, anyways, what are we to do? What's going on? How do we get through this new era of AI that we're in? And the answer is, to be honest, we're still exploring. I think there's new solutions coming into play. But one thing that is very important for all of us to do right now is to truly start to understand AI and look for ways that it could replace our role or start to effectively um, execute certain things that we're doing. I think it's important to start really understanding how all of these things work and exploring different ways to use these tools. And I'm working in content and marketing. And there's certain things that I do better than the AI tools that I use do. There's some things that it doesn't necessarily do better, but it does things a little bit faster, which for me is helpful because it reduces the amount of time it takes for me to complete something. And that's how I'm looking at it right now. How can I use AI as a tool, as a hammer, as a screwdriver, a drill, and calculate all these things to really improve the process? Now, what I could also say is that there's certain tools that we're using right now, shout out to Choppity, that can do things like editing video, creating clips faster than what I could create it. And if my job is simply just creating clips for podcasts or shows, my job, like I'm out of a job. Like it doesn't, but for me, it's creating opportunity for me to learn how to edit videos a little bit better, how to add more effects that AI isn't able to do right now because it's coming. How do I do things a little bit differently that ultimately adds a whole nother experience or value to the end user, basically someone who's on social media scrolling and scrolling, like kind of capturing that attention. So it's starting to take a look at what we're doing now, what's available, and learning. So, but it's not something we all have to do all by ourselves because it's kind of like it could be intimidating and start to think about what can I do now like what's out there for me, because sometimes it's not even just about like how do I do what AI is doing is better. Sometimes I'm honestly looking at this as an opportunity for a career pivot, learning a new skill that I didn't have before. So I want to share this article I found on fortune.com. 7 free AI classes you could take online from top tech firms and universities. Something that's kind of known but not commonly known. And I say commonly because not everybody knows it. I think when we take a look at knowledge, like collective knowledge, it's important to not just take a look at people who know it, but people who may not have heard about this yet. Things like taking free classes from MIT. There's a lot of opportunities to take free classes, and usually they charge for actually getting the actual certification. All these things. There's boot camps that are available. They're usually paid, but there's all different alternative and creative ways to learn. And right now, because AI is so new and there's people committed to making sure other people are aware of it, there's options available. So one is AWS, which is Amazon. They have 100 free and low cost AI courses and learning resources available. And I'll share this link in the description after this live is over. I'll post about it a little bit later as well because I want to make sure everyone has this. By the way, AWS, if you're not familiar, this whole in fact, I'm going to show y'all. I'm going to show this to y'all. AWS, just in case anyone is not already familiar. What is this? That stands for Amazon Web Services. When we think of Amazon, we know Amazon, the marketplace where we go to buy things and get it the next day. We know about Amazon Prime, which I believe may end up being the new place to watch the NBA, but also movies and different TV shows, a lot of original content. But AWS is really all the tech stuff that's behind it, all the tools that have been developed for, hosting things. It's all sorts of different technology. It covers a wide range of different solutions. Like they have things like they had different artificial intelligence stuff. They have things for media, different transcoders. Oh, I'm out here clicking everything but what I need to click. Robotics, have some type of robo maker to develop, test, and deploy robotic applications. And they have all sorts of different educational resources there to learn how to be an AWS specialist. I've known about this for years. I'm going to shout out to CL, who actually has gone through. CL's the producer I have or work with, and he's been in this IT world a little bit longer. My own dad actually has gone through different AWS trainings to go a little bit deeper in this world of tech. Yeah, artificial intelligence right here. They have a whole bunch of tools here, and there's different resources to start learning. So, anyways, I went on a tangent. This isn't a Jeff Bezos propaganda thing. It's more so like, hey, here's resources, and I want to share them with you. Google. Google has beginner courses for anyone who may be interested in AI. They have a platform, edX. Definitely check it out. Harvard, Introduction to Artificial Intelligence with Python. I've spoken to two people who are either in tech or are some type of developers recently in the past week. And both of them helped me to realize that because I was thinking like, oh, I might want to be like an AI developer. And they both helped me to realize that, yeah, that's not just a flip of a switch thing to become one. It takes certain a skill set, and it can take years, or there's different paths to learn a little bit faster. And one of those skill set that a lot of developers have is understanding how to code with Python, which is a coding language. Now, that sounds honestly, when they were talking to me, I felt very overwhelmed. But once again, there's different resources like the Introduction to Artificial Intelligence with Python, all these courses that we could start learning to get into tech, because I'm seeing a lot of people who are getting paid a lot of money to be in this field and who are developing the programs and applications that could end up taking our job in like 10 years or whatever, or at least change the way that we work, which I think is really what's going to happen. So a lot of more programs, IBM, Intel, University of California, a lot of known organizations known for their quality of education. It's here. I'll share the link a little later. Shout out to Steve again. He shared that I'm of the opinion that AI will not replace people. People who have superior AI skills will replace people. I'm going to read that one more time. I'm of the opinion that AI will not replace people. People who have superior AI skills will replace people. Man, y'all better go check out those free resources, start learning stuff. I mean, it's not really about becoming a developer. Those are just there in case you wanted to make that pivot or just learn a little bit more about this whole world behind the scenes. It can be as simple as becoming better at things like ChatGPT, Gemini, looking into different softwares that use AI to help just with execution. One that I'm using, shout out to Super Copy, a startup that uses AI to help develop stronger marketing personas so that you know who your target audience is. Let me know if you're interested in that. I'll do a walkthrough with you. A lot of different resources, a lot of opportunities to learn. I think that if you don't start taking a serious look at what AI is, um, you'll be kind of left behind. You'll be kind of like right now with me, sometimes with my phone, I'm like, oh, I didn't even know I could do that. And it's something that could have made my life like 10 times easier. Now, this is what I'm talking about with just learning what's happening. We're in a world that's becoming more and more based in technology. There's a lot of advancements that's coming. Sometimes we don't even realize it, but we're just so sucked into things like our phone, we don't even know that. And I'm not saying that we're so sucked in, but it's like we're using a phone. We don't even always look at it as like that super advanced piece of technology. This device could do a lot of stuff. And now that we're seeing companies like, Apple's looking into different ways it can start implementing AI a little bit more, is coming. Well, this is the new kind of tech revolution. And for us, it's important that we make sure that we are aware of it, we're in it, and we just stay informed. There's a lot of things that we were left out of or not able to participate in due to either awareness, limited access to education, not having the resource support or time. But right now, we have a bit more access than we have in previous moments, and it's our job to take advantage of things that are available to us. So yes, that is all I wanted to talk about today. This is a live I did solo. I usually don't do solo things. I usually have people with me, but just wanted to try something new out, speak to the people. I appreciate y'all who are tuned in live. I launched the Working While Black show this year. It was inspired by a live stream that I did during LinkedIn years ago as part of their own kind of marketing campaign, accelerator program type of thing that I was able to take advantage of or was selected to be in. And I decided to keep it going with the show. And I'm speaking to leaders from around the world, people who are on the come up. I have old interviews I want to share with the world. I have news stories I'm getting ready to tell with people who are just either growing right now, have grown, have experienced different things that's important or lessons that they wanted to share through their own journey. And that's my goal, sharing resources, sharing stories with y'all. That's me. So new episodes are coming soon. I'm now working very hard to get one out this month. I promised y'all July, but hey, it's coming a little later. But that's okay. The stories are coming, they're coming soon, and I'm excited to start sharing some lessons I learned from InvestFest. No, not going to the event, but actually just going first outside, hoping security did not kick me out as I spoke to the people who were going and coming out of the festival. A lot of amazing stories like the one I just shared before. Conversation around AI, conversation about investments, conversation about starting a business while working, whole bunch of stories. A lot of people are different levels, experiencing different things, and I was able to capture over 20 different stories, and even had my own mini panel right outside the walk-in as people were sharing their experiences there, things they didn't like, things they did like, and just talking about what the Black community needs to do next. I am so excited to be back at this content seat. A lot of my own stories I'm excited to share as well. And yeah, if you're still watching this replay, or watching this on the replay, drop a comment, let me know you made it to the end. Everyone watching live, appreciate you. More coming soon. My name is Walt. I'll talk to you later. Peace.